This week's scenario is Standoff from the 2017 Steamroller packet. This scenario does have the Killbox Artifice in effect and consists of 2 circular zones which can be controlled by warrior units, warcasters, and warlocks for 1 CP, 2 rectangular zones which can be controlled by warjacks, warbeasts, battle engines, warcasters, and warlocks for 1 CP, and 2 objectives, each could be destroyed for 1 CP for the opposing player. Victory conditions consist of earning 5 more control points than your opponent or caster assassination.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and today we're playing Retribution of Issyria. That's right, we're reunited, and it feels so good. For this outing, I went ahead, I grabbed Issyria, Sibyl of the Dawn, and I played Legions of the Dawn theme force. I know it came out a while ago, but it's still fresh and new to me, and I gotta say, I was putting these models on the table, and I just think that the Dawnguard are the coolest looking dudes in the world. I absolutely love it. So I thought that they weren't particularly well with her because she can speed them up, get them into combat faster. She also has access to blinding light to help deliver them, and a nice little armor buff. I think that even though you're making some sacrifices with her spell support, there's no Chimera in the list, that it really works out in her favor, and I think her feat also stacks very powerfully on their strong offensive output. So I'm very excited to get them on the table. Let's look at my opponent.
Hey everyone, MacDaddy again here. Playing Sevi 2 because I'm on a Protectorate high lately. I really enjoy Sevi 2. On the last video I filmed, I said something along the lines of him being my favorite caster in Protectorate, and that's really the truth. But I'm really experimenting with him and trying to get a better feel for him. So the premise of this list is to have a really strong battle group, and then the Idrians can test and stall in scenario long enough for me to get the jacks up there. The Templars are a super core of durability and hard-hitting power, and the Reckoners provide some ranged firepower and assassination potential with awareness and such. Blessing of Vengeance is also in the list for that sweet arc node, because Sevi really needs it because he dies really easy, and the rest of the army is just kind of there to support, you know, your typical choir vassal and all that jazz. So we'll see how this matchup goes.
So it's really good that I won the role to go first because I want to gain a lot of distance kind of up the board against those Idrians in particular. I'm very worried about them, and I don't want them pressing me back into my deployment zone. Going into this matchup, I was particularly concerned. I feel like Epic Sevi is a very strong control caster against infantry. I'm running a very infantry-heavy list, and I've skimped out on a lot of the support, such as Soulless Escorts, things like that. But I'm very proud that a lot of the models in this list are just work models. There's really only 4 points spent on support with the Arcanist Mechanics. That being said, I feel like I have to be very careful, play a very strong positioning game in order to not just get wiped off the board. He can clear a lot of infantry with his spell list. He's got the Idrians, they've got prey, they've got guns. And one of the things that I was counting on when I built this list, when I built my strategy, was to use Blinding Light with the 2 Chimeras in order to remove kind of the shooting threats to the Sentinels. Given that he has Arcane Ward, this is not going to happen. It's not going to be my day for Blinding Light. So instead, we're going to be playing the distance game. And one of the things that I think that helps me a lot with my army build, in this scenario in particular, is that I have a lot of different scoring elements that I can apply, and there are a lot of different scoring elements in the scenario. I have the unit of Sentinels, they're just going to go up there, they're going to take that zone. It's going to be their zone. We're going to name it Sentinel Land, plant our flag there, and I'm going to dare him to come to me. You have to come to me to stop me from scoring the zone. How are you going to do it? Now, down on the bottom zone, is a little bit trickier because he has the unit of Idrians there. So what we're going to have Issyria go. She's going to throw up Infallible Resolve because he put prey on them and, you know, cancels out a little bit, at least until that Hex Blast comes for me. She's also going to put Admonition up on the Chimera. It's very important to me because I would like my Chimera to live. You know, it's just one of those things. Then we're going to mark out the threat range for the Idrians. They can advance 10 inches and they can shoot 6. I have my little Chimeras they're going to run on up. One of the things that I've done is I've loaded them up on focus, so they're going to get that extra defense against ranged and magic attacks. That'll bump them up to, I think, a 14 off the top of my head. So hopefully that'll be a little icing, you know. Even though 14 isn't this overwhelmingly strong defense, any little bit that you can make more difficult for your opponent helps out in the long run, you know. The more you push them to reach for dice rolls, the more, you know, they can't always get lucky, you hope. You know, there's some games where it just doesn't work that way. So having that extra there, it doesn't cost me anything. It's turn 1. He can't get to Issyria. So we're just going to do that for a little fun. Otherwise, the Sentinels are going to run up. Everyone's going to stay just out of threat range. We'll see what he does.
So I'm actually kind of nervous going into the scenario. One of the things I've discovered with this list as time goes on is I've played quite a few games with it now, and you really have to break up the battle group. So I really need to be super careful with my scenario placement here. You're going to see me I've skewed in my deployment actually to the bottom side of the table, when the goal there is because Idrians versus Sentinels with Sevi and Arcane Ward should actually win that fight, because Idrians out-threat them with shooting, and even under with Inviolable Resolve, I can kill a few, and Hex Blast can always strip that off, which is kind of awesome. So my goal here is to push to the bottom zone and really skew there and start pushing, not for a scenario win, but an attrition win, and stalling on scenario long enough that I can rely on attrition as my main, that the attrition push will get me over the edge. You see me once again, like last game, hiding from that Colossal. It's super scary. It out-threats my entire army because Sevi has no threat extenders outside of some Enliven jank. And his only damaging gun, though, is the push gun, which is worse for me because it just means he drags my heavies 6 to 9 inches towards his Weapon Master infantry that have Hand of Fate on feet turn. So we don't like that. One of the great things about this, though, is I have Passage, which means no magical shooting, but we're playing Standoff, and he chose the magical objective, so that's always nice. Gotta love that. It's one of the big blez with relying on Passage and as a main defensive tech is every once in a while someone has a cute little answer to it. But if we were playing a scenario without objectives, he actually has no way to affect my battle group with his push gun, which makes this matchup so much better for me. So I'm going to use the Force to try to hide from it a little bit, but that's just going to be something I have to worry about positioning with. His arc nodes are up there. You see me just moving the Idrians out of his threat range. He can run and engage me, but then I'm just going to kill a bunch of Sentinels even under mini feet because I'm just going to strip Hex Blast and go to town because charging Idrians are POW 14 and MAT 8, which is really, really nice. So they're just going to skew there, and I'm going to say, hey, run to engage me. Come at me, bro, basically, is what I'm saying, and trying to dominate that zone and force him to make a decision. I go second, so if he doesn't come forward, I'm going to score some quick points on that bottom turn, which is what I'm really trying to bait with the Idrians to, even if he just barely toes the zone, I'm going to really threaten that zone for him. You're going to see Blessing and Vengeance move up. I'm going to move up really passively, and I'm actually going to take some Hex Blast shots at those Arc Nodes because Sevi can shoot some POW 15 Hex Blast and a POW 13 Hex Blast and boost the damage rolls, and hit pretty accurately. So sadly, though, I miss the first one. I needed like a 4, and I rolled a 3. Which happens to me a lot with Sevi. It's actually really frustrating. Not just Sevi, though. It happens to me in Circle all the time. I'll need, really low rolls, and, I don't need a boost, and then I just happen to roll a 2 or a 3 or something absurd like that. So, it's dice. It's the beginning of the game. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. The second Hex Blast, I don't think I actually go for it, because, yeah, that would be bad. I also allocate a little bit I don't allocate because I don't need Oracular. Oracular's just going to move up and take a shot with awareness, and he's going to pump some damage into him. Missing that Hex Blast actually ends up being kind of a big deal there because I really want the extra chip damage. I really need to put as much damage into those Arc Nodes as possible. So the second Reckoner's going to move up, and we actually realize he's not in range if I'm correct, so he can't take a shot. So positioning error on my part. Templars are going to run. Speed 4 is bad. Ugh, Speed 4. Is so bad. I jam myself up there, so yay, bad decisions are bad. And Choir's just going to move up. He could have actually been towing the zone with that other Templar, which is kind of depressing. So pre-measure that stuff. That's definitely something I'm a little embarrassed of. I put Enliven on. I put Focus on them. I'm not sure why. Enliven is also irrelevant, so it's kind of one of those things, meh.
Well, look at that. Making things just a little bit harder actually paid dividends last turn. He got a bad dice roll at the right time for me, and now I still have my Admonition up on my Chimera. And just to reward him for missing that attack roll, we're going to go ahead and upkeep it, because I am a giver. That is the kind of guy I am. Now, I know last turn I said that I was very sad that the Arcane Ward was on the Idrians, and Blinding Light's not going to play a big deal in this. However, that being said, I see an interesting opening here. I can actually apparition forward with that Chimera and walk a little bit into the woods, and I can put Blinding Light on his caster. That will stop any of his offensive spells, which in this case is significant. That includes Rebuke, Ashes to Ashes, Hexblast. That takes a lot of his ability to control the game, to control my army, off the table. And I think that's going to be a pretty good move for me. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to apparition the one Chimera up into the woods, we're going to apparition the other one back around. So that way, when I'm assuming he's going to come in, he's going to kill my Chimera, because why would you let me have Arc Nodes? So we're just going to have the one sacrificial one in the woods and the one who's going to be his backup, kind of hiding behind him. Otherwise, I'm just kind of going through, making sure my focus allocation's good to go. The mechanics are just going to take care of Helios. One of the things I'm kind of looking at is, can I, kind of finagle pulling Blessing of Vengeance out, maybe try to kill him with some Sentinels, have all these different pushes. So we're going to load up my jacks, and one of the things I want to do is, of course, put a couple extra focus on them. That's going to make them that much harder to shoot. Now they have concealment, they go up to defense 16, and again, just that same mindset from the first turn, make it just a little bit harder for him on every single step, and there's just a little bit more chance for him to fail just mathematically, statistically. So that being said, we're going to go ahead, we're going to Blinding Light on Sevi, and it is going to be awesome. So happy about that. The other thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that his jacks cannot get to my Helios, otherwise Helios is just going to run. I was in range to advance to shoot Blessing. The problem I'm running into is he has 2 shield guards there for Blessing, so I'll get to move it a whole 3 inches. It's not going to move it anywhere interesting or anywhere advantageous for me. Ironically, moving it closer to Issyria could actually make it a little bit more dangerous. Granted, that Blinding Light hit, but it's still something to keep in mind. What I'm doing now is we're just being very aggressive now, because he has lost a lot of his control abilities. I've really got him in a kind of a pickle here. So I'm being aggressive, I'm pushing my Sentinels up, they're fully in the zone, so I'm going to start scoring that zone unless he puts something up there. Again, I'm daring him to come to me, I'm daring him to feed me resources. He runs a very jack-heavy brick, so all of his resources are expensive. One of the other things I'm taking into account is I'm pushing all my Sentinels very close together in a clump. The reason for this is that even though he can't hit them with spells, he can still feat on them. And one of the powerful control abilities attached to the Hierarch's feat is he leaves these Scather Clouds. So one of the things I want to make sure is that when he kills one of my models and leaves this Scather Cloud in there, I guess now we're Blinding Light, so Order of Activations. But when he kills one of my models with his feat and leaves a Scather Cloud there, I want to make sure that all my guys are already in it. So that way I'm not having to deal with this, when you enter into it, you take a point, you have to run around it. It's very, very grumpy for me. So that's why they're all bunched up together like that. The thing is, he doesn't really have a ton of AoEs, so we have that going on. I did look this turn at popping feet, and I opted not to. The Idrians feated, they went to ground, they're dug in. They are going to be very, very difficult to shoot. And I was hoping to maybe, kind of kill one with my Invictors, but realistically, mathematically, it wasn't really worthwhile. So what we're doing instead is we're playing my favorite game of all, the Patience game. And the idea being that I can't really get to him this turn. I can put a lot of pressure onto him, I can tilt him with Blinding Light, but I can't actually hurt his army that much. They're just out of range, their defenses are too good. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put my best face forward, and I'm just going to basically take it on the chin, but be patient. So I put enough Sentinels in the zone that it's very well contested. I put all of them on the hill, so now they're defense 14, again making it that much more difficult to remove them. Then they're going to pop their mini feat, they've got Iron Zeal, they've got Inviolable Resolve, they're going to be armored 22. So he's going to have to go in, he's going to have to start working on those. I've got the other 6 members in the unit sitting back there in the trench. They're, defense 16, armor 22, they're fat, dumb, and happy. My one regret here with positioning-wise is I should have put that banner as one of the ones in the zone, because he's pretty expendable. But it's a mistake on my part. Otherwise, the Invictors don't have the mini feat, they're not going to have the stats. They're going to be kind of easy prey for the Idrians, even though I'm trying to kind of bait them out with the Sentinels. I really don't want to offer up my Invictors. So they're just going to stay back, and my hope is that once Go to Ground goes away, I still have a serious feat, I still have my Snipe mini feat, that patience is going to pay off, and I'm going to be able to hit him very hard next turn, very accurately next turn. When I'm not going up against his strongest face. I'm waiting him out. So that's kind of what's going on there. That's the mindset. Otherwise, we're just kind of playing a little defense with my arc nodes, making sure that nothing can really get to them. And the mechanics are going to come. They're going to, load things up, get that little extra defense, and we'll pass the turn to him.
Yeah, Blinding Light sucks. It sucks so much. I'm so angry that happened, and that I allowed him to draw line of sight to Sevi with those arc nodes. If I get the positioning right on that Templar, I could have moved all my heavies base to base and prevented that from going off. So I didn't expect him to Blinding Light Sevi, but when you Arcane Ward the Idrians, these things happen, and I need to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. Blinding Light is putting me in a terrible position with Sevi. I really needed to do work with him this turn, and I just can't. So that's the thing about Issyria, though. She's got a really deep toolkit. Rep players, if you need a caster that has a very versatile toolkit and a really strong feat, really recommend Issy. Blinding Light is really, really good. And I'm kind of a dodo for letting that go off on Sevi, but realistically, between the push gun on that stupid Jack and the speed of his arc nodes, he probably, in the end, we talked about at the end of the game, he probably in the end could have gotten that Blinding Light off anyway. Which is kind of depressing. Now, granted, if he doesn't have the magical objective, he doesn't get that off. But anyway, I'm going too far into it. My game plan is to clear the bottom zone. The Idrian should be able to kill 3 to 4 of those guys, and then the Reckoners finish off the other 2. If I can clear that bottom zone and score a point, I'm in a really good spot. And then once I clear things out with the Idrians, I'm going to repo into the zone as long as things go according to plan there. So that's just kind of the goal. Score the bottom zone, score my rectangular zone, and pretty much just stall another turn and back out of the threat ranges of his stuff, because getting charged by a bunch of weapon masters is really bad. Another thing I'm having to deal with is those stupid dudes in the back there, the gun guys. I can't remember what their name is. But they actually can peel Idrians off the table really easy, especially now that Arcane Ward's going to have to go on Sevi, because I can charge with Idrians, I can't charge with Sevi. So I really should have put Arcane Ward on him at the beginning of the game. But just to have it on there, just to prevent that from happening. But I really, really did not expect that Blinding Light to happen to me, and that's just what happens when you play a caster for the first time. Things like that just go crazy. So mistake on my part. My Idrians don't do as much as I wanted them to. I think they're going to kill... Yeah, they leave an extra dude on the table. I'm going to reposition. I'm pretty sure I, for whatever reason, reposition out of the zone. I think what my original plan was to walk into the zone with Sevi. Basically, this was... I'm not sure what. I think I panicked with Sevi getting blinding lighted, and I repositioned out of the zone because I didn't kill enough of those guys, and I was really afraid of getting retaliation. So I think I abandoned scoring that zone, and I'm not sure why I abandoned that plan. I still could have feasibly done it with my feet. So I just kind of gave up on that plan, though, thinking I'll just score 1 point in the bottom zone and be okay. And then the Reckoners are going to each peel a nerd off the table, which is going to be nice. And then the rest of the battle groups just kind of move up and try to prevent pushes as much as possible. Choir's going to sing Passage. I'm not going to sing Battle, just to force him to put those magical weapons onto that guy, so that he has to push around. And I'm going to try to positions to prevent pushes as much as possible and toe that bottom zone to prevent it from contesting. And the rest of the turn is really straightforward. Just lots of random positioning. I'm really thinking here because I have to be super careful. I've basically given up the top of the half of the table, but I have to with this list because his weapon masters out-threat my jacks. And as much as the Idrians are really good into this list, I'm really gonna struggle to push more than one half of the table with my jack brick, because they really need to brick up to get the most use out of them. If I spread the jacks out, I'm just going to lose a heavy for no apparent reason. So right now I'm just trying to unbox my army, trying to figure out what the best I can do. I consider sending what I really am doing right now is I'm considering sending that Templar into that stupid Banshee up there, but I forget that it has admonition. And that wouldn't be a problem if I could cast Hex Blast, but I can't cast Hex Blast. So this is really awkward right now. Like I said, I don't get Blinding Light Sevi. If I can prevent Sevi getting Blinding Light, this turn is so easy for me. I just clear the bottom zone. Sevi potentially walks up and feats and blows up a bunch of his models. And my battle group just sits there. And I play the ha ha ha, come at me, I'm going to shoot you and kill the bottom half of the table and make you walk all the way across the board to get to me. But I can't do that because Sevi got Blinding Lighted. So that's a really big issue for me this turn. This matchup is actually not very favorable to Issyria, but Blinding Light is such a potent spell that it's really kicking my butt right now, and that's why this turn is taking forever. Like I said, it's not a very hard turn. It's not a very complicated turn, but it's Blinding Light has really kicked me off my rocker here. Part of the problem is this is only like my second game with Sevi, second or third game with him at this point, testing out this list. And so I'm still kind of learning a lot of his strengths and weaknesses and learning how to play the list and learning how it fluctuates and when to commit and where to commit and all that stuff. So I'm still trying to figure all that jazz out. So that's why you're going to see me not play a very clean game here. So I'm also measuring up Sevi's feet. The Hierophant's going to walk back and Harmonious Sevi. I'm pretty sure that's what he does. And then Sevi's going to walk over. I put down that token because I'm really considering feeding here. And then I don't feed, and because I don't think it's worth it to kill one guy. And if I move Sevi any farther forward, he's going to assassinate me. What I didn't necessarily measure out is that stupid the threat range of those guys, but they could actually potentially reach me, especially with the push gun and all the shenanigans. I have 3 shield guards, which really helps against the push gun. But if he pulls one of my shield guards out, he can draw line of sight to Sevi, no problem. So I moved Arcane Ward to Sevi because Blinding Light on Sevi is bad, and if I can stay in this game for another turn and get some work out of Sevi, then I think I win no problem because I get to pop my feet and then all that jazz. So the Reckoner's going to walk over and blow that thing out of the water, and then stuff just shuffles around, and that's pretty much the turn. I consider contesting with Blessing, but I think I go back on that plan. So he's just going to, I think, meander over here and shield guard, be a shield guard and contesting piece.
One of the things that I absolutely love about playing Ret is that you have so many positioning abilities that it is off the charts. It is insane. And this is what everyone who plays Ret should be focusing on. This is what they should love about the faction as well. You have Vengeance on the Sentinels. You've got Crusaders calling Issyria. You have the tractor beam off of Helios. It is the greatest gun in the game. And then you have the apparition from the Chimera. So I have all these different ways of repositioning my entire army at the start of the turn so that I can get an optimal turn out of them. But then I also have the ability to reposition his army in order to take advantage of that. And that is precisely what I'm going to do this game. I see that I'm already ahead by 1 CP. And I feel like I have the ability to end this fairly bloodlessly and fairly quickly on control points. I need to get 4 this turn. I have the scenario zone up top. The scenario zone on the bottom. I have my own zone, which requires a Warjack. And then I have the ability to kill his objective. So those are going to be the 4 points that I'm going to try to go for. In order to do so, I'm going to need to clear out a bunch of Idrians. I'm going to clear out the Reckoner that's in the bottom zone. So one of the things that I gave him last turn that is a very difficult decision to make, which is what to do with Arcane Ward. Do you move it onto Sevi, or do you leave it on the Idrians? In his case, he chose to move it onto Sevi because the odds are pretty decent I'm going to be able to get some sort of weird line of sight and then blast him with it again, which is exactly what I'd be doing. So he moved it off the Idrians, but then I can now Blinding Light the Idrians. One of the nice things about that is that'll make them -2 defense. They'll drop them from a 13 to an 11. Then I have a series feat, which is essentially Signs of Importance. So now I'm going to drop them to an 11. I have these Invictors. They've saved their mini feat, so they'll be range 14. They'll be able to hit on, 5s? And then I have an additional dice, and then you can drop. So they're going to hopefully be able to clear out all the Idrians in that zone very quickly, very easily, very efficiently. So we have the Chimera. He's going to go forward. He Apparition. He's going to run. Issyria's going to activate. She's going to go ahead. She's going to Blinding Light the Idrians. No surprises there. She's also going to Crusader's Call, and then she's going to move to toe into the top zone in order to score it. The reason I'm doing that is, of course, my favorite unit of flanking Sentinels, they're going to come down straight into his objective. One of the things I am checking is to see what's in the feet, what is not in the feet. That's going to be very important when I come to use the Invictors to shoot, or if the Sentinels on the bottom have to charge on in. So now we're going to have the Victors. They're going to do a little bit of wiggling in order to get some line of sight to make sure not only do they have line of sight to their primary targets, but I want to try to have a backup guy for every group of Idrians. Just in case some dice roll goes wrong, you should always plan for dice to hate you, because they hate me. They really do. That's why I play casters who fix dice. Jaga Jaga, Issyria. I need the help. So in this case, they're going to pop their mini feet and make sure they're all in command, get the line of sight, and they're just going to blow away some Idrians. It's going to be a Invictor bloodbath. It's going to be awful. So they go through, not a single one misses, so thumbs up Invictors, very proud of you. And then just pew pew, pew pew, pew pew. So at this point, that bottom zone is now actually clear. So I have two options. I need to, one, have the Sentinels in there. In order to score it, you need to have a unit. But I also need to get this Reckoner out of the way. I have two ways of doing that. One, I can have all the Sentinels charge a Reckoner. You've got Crusaders call up, they have a 12-inch threat range, and I think I can get 5 or 6 onto the Reckoner. Hopefully that will kill him. There's some question on who would be in the feet, who would not be in the feet. My more favorite way of doing it is to shoot it 3 times with Helios. And that is what we are pre-checking right now. Have I cleared up enough room where I can push that Reckoner 3 inches in any direction and move him out of zone? There is risk to this. And the reason is that I counted he had 2 shield guards in the list. He actually has 3. I didn't realize that Blessing gained the shield guard rule. So fortunately for me, and my ignorance, the Blessing's out of 3 inches. But I have 3 shots, and it's going to take 3 shots, 3 hits to move that Reckoner. So we're going to load him up. He's going to have the 3 focus. And we're going to just take the boost, and you're going to have a Series feet again to help. We want to present our strongest face forward. So now we have the Sentinels. They're going to charge on in. They're going to have a Series feet. They're going to always hit the objective. And they are going to do terrible things. Just terrible things to that objective. That objective did not deserve that. But the other thing they're going to do is they've been saving their mini feet. They're going to go base to base. They're going to make their little triangles. They're going to mini feet. So that way, if this all goes wrong, he still has to come into armor 20 Sentinels. We have Helios going. He's going to make his first shot. It's going to be shield guarded. Second shot, shield guarded. And the third shot will successfully hit. That'll push the Reckoner out. That'll score me my last point once the Sentinels run into the zone. And that will be a scenario victory. Again, one of the things to always focus on when you're looking at Red is positioning. I love the positioning fact of this army, and you should too. It is great. Thank you all for watching. And I hope this is really educational for people who are maybe struggling with the faction.
So, yeah, that was a little embarrassing. Basically, some different things happened there. I overestimated how tough it would be to clear that bottom zone. And I didn't realize that his jack gun wasn't a push directly away, it's a push in any direction. So I thought, oh hey, I'm going to shield guard 2 of those push shots, and then I'm just going to bounce off my dude for the last shot because he's going to push directly away from me. So I was like, oh man, okay, so he's going to have to commit. I think he could get 3 Sentinels to the Reckoner, which is not too terrible survival odds because it's dice off 7 even with Hand of Fate and POW 12 Weapon Master. I think he actually is okay. But instead, he was able to clean off a bunch of my Idrians. I shouldn't have repositioned with them. I should have dug in with them and just face tanked it. I was thinking for a turn ahead. Like I said, I didn't expect him to clear that bottom zone. But that's, once again, a lesson of knowing what your opponent does, knowing about your opponent's rules. Blinding Light kicked my butt this game. If I hadn't let Sevi get Blinding Lighted top of 1, I think I win this game no problem. I clear the bottom zone. I can play aggressively with him. I can potentially go after those arc notes instead of using my Reckoners to try to clear the bottom zone. and that's pretty much the moral of the story. Even with that, though, I could have salvaged that by putting the Idrians in the zone and using my feet to kill that one nerd, and then digging in with the Idrians, because then and keeping Arcane Ward on them and just blocking line of sight with my Jack Wall and Sevi and using my shield guards to go in there. Now, another thing I could have done is I could have actually run Blessing of Vengeance within 3 inches of that Reckoner and kept the push from happening. So, just little things, a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot since I played this list, so it's just going to be one of those things where I hope that I just got to keep improving.